Smoke rises from the mountain of doom. The hour grows late, and Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard, seeking my counsel. For that is why you have come, is it not? My old friend.
Saruman.
The narrative being told in this scene is one of betrayal and corruption, and director Peter Jackson and his creative team make use of the 15 points of mise-en-scene expertly to provide the audience with an engaging visual accompaniment to fantastic acting and dialogue.
But we still have time. Time enough to counter Sauron if we act quickly.
Time? What time do you think we have?
Saruman is dominant throughout the sequence, usually one of two if not the sole largest entity in the scene. He is usually in focus, and sunlight prominently illuminates him to a greater degree than Gandalf. Additionally, his white robes distinguish him from the darker color palette inside. Saruman is the antithesis of Gandalf, and his fall into darkness was the director's focus when shooting this scene. Jackson wants the nuances of Christopher Lee's excellent performance, which showcases the falling of Saruman, to be the center of the audience's attention.
They've reached the Shire.
They will find the ring. And kill the one who carries it.
Frodo.
The scene is high contrast, being moderately lit approaching low-key, with parts of the scene brightly lit and others being far less so. You'll notice the characters themselves are always well lit, especially their faces. Unlike previous scenes of the film in which high-key lighting is used, or future scenes in Moria where low-key lighting will be prominent, the choice to use high contrast lighting is uniquely applied to this scene. The intent is to illustrate the conflict which is occurring within Saruman, as he fights the evil which has nearly completely corrupted him. A careful observer of this scene will notice beams of sunlight shining through the windows of the otherwise dark obsidian tower, appearing quite clearly throughout the earlier shots of the scene. However, once Saruman gives into his rage and attacks Gandalf, and by extent takes his fullest step towards evil, the sunbeams are trapped behind the prison-like iron bars of the windows. This acts as a distinct visual metaphor, showing Saruman's final shreds of light being forever locked out of his soul. To further cement the sunbeams as a metaphor for the light within Saruman, Jackson made them absent in all scenes including talk of Sauron or focus on the Palantir before Saruman's fall.
Sauron has regained much of his former strength. He cannot yet take physical form, but his spirit has lost none of its potency. Concealed within his fortress, the Lord of Mordor sees all. His gaze pierces cloud, shadow, earth, and flesh.
Extreme long shots are used as Gandalf arrives to introduce the setting and allow the audience to grasp the scale of Isengard. Afterwards, medium shots and close-ups compose much of the interaction between the two wizards, close-ups most commonly when important information is conveyed. The use of long shots return in the fight scene, interspersed with insert shots of the wizard staffs to bring attention to the metaphor between their duality. This is actually an example of prop design being accentuated by camera proxemics, as the juxtaposition between the natural tree-like staff of Gandalf and the cold metal-cast staff of Saruman is the first visual call for the theme of nature battling rising industry in Middle-earth, a theme associated with Saruman constantly from this point forward. Hey, a bird's-eye view angle, which combines with the extreme long shot to bring attention to the intimidating stature of Orthanc and by extent the looming danger which Gandalf was threatened by. Eye-level shots are prominent mainly due to Jackson's style, as he usually uses camera movement to carry across tension as opposed to oblique angles. The exception to this in this scene occurs when the camera becomes fluid in its movement as our characters leave the study and enter the throne room. During this sequence, a high-angle and low-angle shot are used to exaggerate the menacing height of Gandalf's cage and soon-to-be arena. Both of these angles are shot as oblique to heighten tension.
They are not all accounted for, the lost seeing stones. We do not know who else may be watching.
The color palette within Orthanc consists of a mix of blues and blacks. Whereas Gandalf's grey robe blends in, Saruman's gleaming white robe stands out, accentuating the fact that they are at opposition. Jackson's use of lenses is usually quite straightforward. Telephoto lenses are used in close-ups and detail shots where he desires focus on particular items, and wide-angle lenses are used to capture a larger scope of the scene in some medium and long shots, where elements of the set and greater scene contribute to the visual storytelling. Gandalf is usually the main element of subsidiary contrast, but his position rotates with the Palantir. Sometimes Saruman is not present, and in those shots Gandalf becomes dominant and the Palantir may become subsidiary. This occurs because Gandalf and the Palantir blend in with the set in terms of color and light. It is camera proxemics which brings them out of the background and into focus. As mentioned before, Saruman is the focus of the scene. The Palantir is a major contributing factor to his fall, which is why it is at the center of the throne room from where the dark environment springs forth. Gandalf is not bright, but his grey clothes and silver hair separate him enough from the background to illustrate that he is also an integral character in the scene, and relevant to Saruman's condition as an influencing factor for different reasons than the Palantir.
We must join with him. we must join with Sauron. It would be wise, my friend.
Tell me, friend, when did Saruman the Wise abandon reason for madness?
The density is low in the scenes which take place in Saruman's study, where it is established that the wizards are comfortable and in conversation. The clutter, although not in focus, is mostly made up of papers and old tomes, which is what conveys the purpose of the room as well as what it means to the wizards. We associate books and study with Gandalf, and so now when associated with Saruman, we subconsciously register them as allies. When we follow our characters from that set to the throne room, which is devoid of such clutter, the pre-established comfort is removed, and instead the aspects of Saruman's personality which show that he is power-hungry and at odds with Gandalf are highlighted in the few objects that remain, such as the Palantir, his throne, and a regal stained glass window. Vertical compositions in the study create a sense of confidence between the two wizards. To a different effect, vertical compositions in the throne room show strength in the towering power of Orthanc and Saruman. Here, diagonal composition as Gandalf covers the Palantir shows the tension growing between the two wizards due to Saruman's use of the Dark Device, and Sauron's being uncovered. The scene is close-framed, as actor and camera movement are carefully coordinated, which makes the scene itself feel carefully orchestrated. The opposite is true outside of Isengard, where framing does feel more open. This is another symbolic action taken by Jackson to make the closed-framed Orthanc feel like a cage or prison, when compared with the open-framed outdoors. Loose framing is used in the throne room, where characters in the camera are mobile and a fight occurs. The size of the room is considered due to the practicality of having a fight scene with the range of shots and angles desired. The tight framing when the wizards are in the study accentuates the closeness of the characters as they discuss the rise of Sauron. Even if it is partially simulated by Saruman, Gandalf trusts the head of his order.
You know of what I speak, Gandalf. A great eye, lidless, wreathed in flame.
The Eye of Sauron.
He is gathering all evil to him. Very soon he will have summoned an army great enough to launch an assault upon Middle-earth.
You know this? How?
I have seen it.
Shallow focus is employed to bring attention to Saruman, Gandalf, the Palantir, and the wizard's staves in the vast majority of shots for the purposes of previously discussed elements of mise-en-scene. In long shots and some medium shots, a deeper focus is used when introducing a new set or location. The two wizards are always of importance and so never leave center frame. When Saruman sits upon his throne, he is slightly elevated in the shot, showing his dominance over the situation when Gandalf tries to leave and he slams the various doors shut to prevent his departure. The majority of early shots are quarter turns. There is an intimate engagement with the audience from both Saruman and Gandalf, but the most important relationship of the scene is between the two wizards. A profile shot here transitions into a quarter turn as Saruman brings us into the next set. When Saruman's duplicity is first established through his ownership of a Palantir, he is staged at a three-quarter turn, facing away from the audience and causing a lack of trust to form. Gandalf and Saruman start out close, but as they progress into the throne room, they begin to move further apart. This begins when Gandalf questions Saruman's intentions with the Palantir, and after Sauron is revealed to have been watching, Saruman walks further from Gandalf and sits in his throne. Throughout the fight which occurs after Saruman attempts to turn Gandalf to darkness and fails, they literally push each other further apart. The combination of these scenes powerfully symbolizes their transformation from allies to enemies.
The chance of aiding me willingly, but you have elected the way of pain.